Welcome back everybody to another episode of Skid's Garage. And today we're going to get stuck into this crusty old orange panel van of mine some more and see what else we can fix on it. And if today goes as to plan, I'm going to share with you what I'd like to do with the van. So let's get into it. Welcome back everybody, and today we're going to get stuck into this panel van some more. The plan for today is replace that crank. I got a new one I got from Ford. So we're going to see how easy it is to slip that off and slip the new one on. Once that's on, belt on and see if the alternator works. Then we're going to chuck the radiator back in, plumb it all up, flush the cooling system out, because from a previous video you would have seen how crusty it is inside the engine, inside the cooling system. So I'm going to flush it all out, and then I'm going to soak it in some vinegar and see if that helps it at all. Then we'll see if it runs with the cooling system all connected with coolant in it, and we'll see if I've got any leaks, whether it holds coolant, whether it overheats. Don't know what to expect. I'm going to keep an eye on the temperature. I've got an old temperature gauge laying around somewhere. I'm going to see if I can connect it up to this. I'll see if it works. Hopefully then I can at least keep an eye on the temperature and see if the engine overheats or not, but we'll see how that works. Once the cooling system's all in and it's running, and fingers crossed it all works, I have plans to also drop the fuel tank. It's under here somewhere. But anyway, drop the fuel tank. I'm going to see whether it's going to hold fuel. I'm going to clean it out, put it back in and connect the fuel line to it. Then we'll see if it'll run on its own off the fuel tank. Then I might just take it for a quick little spin out of the shed and back in, just to make sure everything's all sweet. If I've got any spare time, I'll see what else I can tackle into. So let's get stuck into that. So I hit up Ford for some bits and pieces for this van. So obviously I need to replace the crank pulley. So they've got this. I've bought off them a thermostat, which I won't use straight away because I need to flush it all out and everything, make sure the cooling system's working before I put that in. But it does need a gasket, so as you can see there's a gasket in there as well. I will be chucking that in as well. So yeah, I found them very helpful. So hit them up if you need any parts for your small Ford. So let's get stuck into trying to get this crank sorted out. Or crank pulley, sorry. Let's get that all sorted out. So this pulley should be held on by a 16mm bolt. Hopefully I can get my rattle gun on it, and fingers crossed it comes undone. So let's give this a whirl. Aha! Wow, that come off straight away. So fingers crossed this, well, it should just slip off with a little bit of encouragement. So fingers crossed it does so. So yeah, let's give that a go. So I've got the bolt out. So it's just a basic 16mm bolt which runs through the middle, and then theoretically this should just slip off. It's hard one-handed, it does just slide off. Look at that. Oh, hang on. It's a bit stuck. It's hard doing it one-handed. So I'll have the idea anyway on what I'm about to do. So I'm going to pull this out and I'll show you how badly damaged this pulley really is. So here we've got a better view of what we're working with the fan removed. So stupid me was wondering why it wasn't sliding off. It's because it was fouling out on the fan. So this literally just slips on off like that, and it's held on to the crank just with a keyway, and that's how badly damaged it was. So I've heard of this happening before. It's obviously a relatively known thing to happen, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but luckily I've got a new one to chuck on. So let's slip the new one on and chuck this belt on, see if this alternator works. So installation is just purely reversal of the removal. Spin it around until I can find the keyway. Oh wow, this one's actually a lot more tighter. This is a lot tighter fit. Well, I'm going to have 2 hands on this. This is a much tighter fit. I'm assuming that the old one was a bit worn out. So I'm going to need 2 hands. So I'll show you it installed. And just like that, the new pulley is installed. It was significantly easier than expected. The new one was a tight fit going on, not too tight, but just gave it a little bit of a tap on with the hammer. Once that keyway lined up nicely, it just slipped on nicely with a bit of a tap with the hammer. And then chuck the bolt back in and done. So from here, I'm going to chuck the fan back in, the belt on, and we're going to see if this alternator works. From there, we're going to get stuck into the cooling system. So let's get stuck into all that. So got everything all put back in, belt on. Alternator's not charging. I kind of suspected it wouldn't. So I'm just assuming it's a dodgy alternator. I think I've got it connected up right. Chances are I don't have it connected up right, but I'm fairly confident I do. I'm not going to invest too much time in that at this point in time. So from here, I'm going to see about connecting up a temp gauge so I can monitor the temperature while I run it with some coolant and stuff. So flush it out, put the radiator in, flush it all out, and then I want to run it to temperature, and obviously I need to know how hot it's getting. So let's see about getting a temp gauge put in. So I have dodgily wired up a temp gauge. It's reading at, what's that, 25, 30, 35, 40, so about 240 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 115 degrees Celsius. That can't be possible because that's ridiculously hot. And I've only had it running for a short period of time, and then I can actually touch down here. That is definitely not 115 degrees. So I'm assuming that's not overly accurate. Well, I can tell it's not accurate, but that's the best I've got. At least I've got an idea on temperatures. And now let's get stuck into the cooling system. So let's see if I can get this radiator in, and let's see if that JB weld holds up. So first things first, we're going to pour some water into this and see if my JB weld job holds up or whether it leaks, or if the radiator leaks at all. So let's chuck some water into it. This is going to be messy, so I'm going to do it with 2 hands, and I'll show you filled up and we'll see if it's leaking. So unfortunately it does leak, only a little bit, but it leaks under here somewhere. So I guess I'm just going to have to pack that with a bit more JB Weld. It's not a big leak, it's only a small one. So I'm thinking I'm just going to have to pack in here a bit more. And otherwise, it's holding water. It's only a slow leak, but no good once it's under pressure. It's just going to squirt out everywhere. So it's going to take some time. I don't have time today to JB weld it and let it set. So I'm thinking my next best bet would be to use the radiator out of my blue 2-door for the meantime, because I will re-JB weld this some more, but whilst that's setting I can't use it. So I'm thinking I'm going to pull the radiator out of my blue 2-door, use that for the meantime. That way we can continue on. So let's do that. Okay, so radiator is in. That's the radiator from my 2-door. That'll do the job for the meantime until I sort out a radiator for this. Now, it's hard to see in there, but it is full of crap. So I need to flush it out. So what I've set up is, this is the highest point. Hopefully everything will just flush straight out of here. So put water in there, it'll fill up and push all the crap out from here. And then I'll do it, and then I'll take this hose off and run water through the top, through here, and hopefully flush it out through the bottom. So we will give that a whirl and see how it works. So hopefully I've got you in a good view. Should see how much garbage comes out of this. Whoops, if I can get the hole. Oh wow, I can see heaps of dust coming out. You might see that, it looks like, oh there we go. And that is pretty grotty looking. It's not too bad, but let me get some more water. Okay, let's try flushing it out. Should have probably really done this outside. I didn't think this through. Yeah, it's all coming out clear now. There's a lot of gunk in there. It's just not flushing out. Let's try going the opposite direction. So I'll take this bottom hose off and see if I can flush it out the other direction. And it's coming through relatively clear. I think that's the best I'm going to get. It's running out clear. Maybe, oh, hang on. What's this? Yeah, there's still a lot of actual thick bits of rust in there. If I can get this out, I'll show you what I'm talking about. I think that's the best I'm going to be able to do at the moment. Come on. This big, chunky bits of rust, that's what I've got in this engine. That's what I'm trying to flush out, but it's just not flushing out very good. Obviously, I'm very limited on what tools and stuff I have here. Damn, what the... Don't really want to run that through the radiator. What I'm going to do, I do have some vinegar. I'm just going to put some vinegar in it, run it up to temp, and then let it soak and then flush it. That's the best I can do at the moment. Without the proper tools to actually flush this out, there's not really much more I can do. See, big chunks of rust. I'm actually a little worried about what condition this engine is in corrosion wise, because it's not looking good. Anyway, let me piece this all back together. I'll chuck a new gasket on, chuck the thermostat housing back on without the thermostat at the moment. I'll connect up the hoses, I'll fill the system up, and then I'm going to use vinegar to actually flush it out. Hopefully that'll, I don't know, hopefully that'll help. So let's get stuck into that. Okay, so I've got the cooling system all put in. I had a few problems with some leaks. Had to replace the bottom hose for another one. So it's full of water at the moment. It's holding. So all I've got to do now, start it up, and fingers crossed there's no leaks, and we'll get it all to temp. So got my gauge all wired up, ready to go. So 100 degrees is about, I looked it up on Google, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's between the 220 and that little dash just there. So somewhere in the middle there. So don't want it too much higher than that. I don't know what temperatures these engines like to run at, but don't want it too much over 100. So we will fire up, and fingers crossed this cooling system works. So I ran it with the water in it. Now sticking my finger in there, it's nice and warm, but not intolerable. So it's definitely not that hot, because if it was that hot, I wouldn't be able to stick my finger in it. So I reckon that gauge is dodgy. So from here, I'm going to drop the water from the bottom radiator hose. I'm going to fill the system up with vinegar, and we're going to run it that through, hopefully, and then I'll let it soak for a while. Then whilst that's soaking, I'll look at tackling the fuel tank. Hopefully, with any luck, by the end of today, I can actually have the engine running off its own fuel tank. So let's drop this water and fill it up with some vinegar. Fingers crossed, it'll clean the system right out. I'm happy that there's no leaks. I was expecting there to be some leaks, like out of Welsh plugs or something stupid, but surprisingly, there's no leaks. So I'm happy with that. So let's get into draining this and filling it up with some vinegar. So I thought I'd try my luck and connect up the ignition, and to my surprise, the temp gauge works on the dash. So that's definitely reading a too high, because I just dropped the water and filled it up with vinegar. Oh, you can see it's still creeping up. So I reckon I've got a dodgy, see, that looks like it's possibly earthing out. So yeah, I've got a fault there somewhere. That's not normal for it to do that. It's not running at 1,000,000 degrees like it's suggesting it is. Anyway, I've obviously got a wiring gremlin there somewhere. I reckon because the wire for that is pretty dodgy. I reckon it's just earthing out somewhere. Anyway, I have filled the radiator up with vinegar. This is what I'm using. Just the strongest stuff I could find. That should give the inside of the engine a good thorough clean. I'm going to fire it up, let it run through, and I'm going to be the temperature gauge by just sticking my finger in there. When it becomes too hot to stick my finger in there, I'm going to say it's probably getting a bit too warm. So let's fire up and let it clean out. That's nice and warm now. It's not too warm, I can keep my finger in there, but I don't see much purpose in running it for too much longer. So from here, I'm literally just going to let it soak. Let it soak. And now, whilst it's soaking, we are going to get stuck into the fuel tank. Fingers crossed, I can get this running off the fuel tank rather than a jerry. So, let's get stuck into that. So, I got the back end jacked up. Right there is the fuel tank. Now I've already had a quick squiz at it, and it is never good when there are bolts missing. This is only held on by 2 bolts. I reckon there's one, where is it? There's one right here, and then there's one in the middle, along the middle somewhere on the other end. So someone's already played around with this, so it's never a good sign. I am scared that this leaks, or there's a problem with it, or there's, I don't know why someone would play with it, but it's not good. And then someone's just quickly slapped it back in. So let's undo those 2 bolts, pull the tank out, and actually see what we're working with. A quick little look around over it. Doesn't look like there's any massive evidence of leaks, but you won't be able to tell until you try filling it up. But it has got a few dents and scratches on it. So let's just pull this out and see what condition it's in. So that's the fuel tank out, and there's 10 tons more of that red dust. So I don't know what this van was used for, but there's so much of this red dust everywhere over it, in every nook and cranny. So anyway, that's the fuel tank out. I'm going to look over it. It doesn't look, if anywhere, might have a leak there. Otherwise, I don't know. We're about to find out though. So I'm going to give this a quick tidy up and clean it out from inside, and then yeah, see if it leaks. So I've pulled the the sender unit. I've removed that, and all I found was a whole heap of old fuel in there that's been sitting for who knows how long, but that's just super sticky, just varnish. There's a big layer of it. You won't be able to see inside, it's dark, and I don't have a torch on me, but it's got a big thick layer of just varnish, just old fuel. It's disgusting in there, but it doesn't look rusty or anything. So I'm going to give this a clean out, and it's so long as it doesn't leak, we're on a winner. Only thing I have seen is it looks like someone's done a repair around the filler neck. So fingers crossed there's no leaks around there. Otherwise the tank looks to be in good nick, but I won't know until I try filling it up. So let's clean it out and yeah, actually see if it leaks. So I've cleaned out the fuel tank using some vinegar. Not perfect job, but should be good enough to now put back in and fill up with some fuel and see if I can feed the engine from the fuel tank. So I can't see why not. So I'm going to reinstall this tank. Then I'm going to get a jerry worth of fuel and put it in, and fingers crossed it all works smoothly. So let's chuck this back in. So I have reinstalled the fuel tank. As you can see there are no leaks. The fuel line's connected up to it. Why it was all disconnected and messed with and whatever, I have no idea. Doesn't make a lot of sense. If it was leaking, it would make sense, or if there was some, I don't know, there just doesn't seem to be any real reason as to why someone would have messed about with it. But anyway, it's all back in, it's all clean, and I've got a nice shiny new fuel cap on it, so no more gunk can get in. So from here I'm going to shoot off. I'm going to get a jerry worth of fuel, I'm going to chuck it in, and we are going to run this van off its own fuel tank. I'm pretty excited about this, so let's do that. So this will be the first fuel up the car's had for about 29 years. So fingers crossed, there's no leaks. Already checked the fuel tank, but doesn't necessarily mean haven't missed something. So I'd really be interested to know the history of this van, how it ended up in this condition, because for as rough as it is, everything's gone so smoothly when working on it. There are no leaks so far. How? I don't know. I would have suspected a few leaks and stuff, but seems to be holding it. So theoretically, there is no reason why this won't run off from the fuel tank now. It's going to take a little while to get the fuel through the lines, but let's give it a go. So there you have it. It now runs off the fuel tank. So I've chucked a filter in there. You can see it's picked everything up. It's not looking like it's in too bad a shape, the fuel, but I'm sure it's going to pick up more than enough gunk from that tank. Even though I did give it a quick clean out with some vinegar, but it still didn't look all too great in there. But I still yet to drain the cooling system. Still got vinegar in there. It's doing its job because everything's turned grey and yuck in there. So it's definitely doing its job. It's gone through like 2 heat cycles. It is getting quite warm very quickly. So maybe there is a heating problem on this, but looking at the condition of the what I've seen under that thermostat housing and the corrosion everywhere, I reckon the water pump's probably knackered, so I'll have to replace that. But it's hard to tell because I don't actually have any means of measuring the temperature at the moment. So anyway, I'm going to drain this vinegar. I'm going to flush it through with some water. Then I'm actually going to put some proper green coolant into it. So let's get into that, and that'll probably see us to the end of the day. And yeah, we've been quite successful today on making some big leaps forwards. So let's get into this cooling system and let's drain it. So it's hard to see in there, but it's looking significantly cleaner. It's not all gunky and stuff in there. I wish I had a torch to show you exactly how clean it is now, but whoops, gotta be careful not to damage that new gasket. But that's all nice and clean in there. I've flushed it through a few times. I'm happy with where it's at. There's still a lot of corrosion on this, as you can see, and there's a lot of this kind of stuff that's obviously broken off through the system. Hopefully it doesn't give too much grief, but that's the best I can do with what I've got here. Hopefully that's going to be good enough for now. So I'm going to piece everything back together, and I'm going to actually put some proper coolant in it, and hopefully that'll prevent this from happening again, corroding. So let's piece it back together and put some proper coolant in it. So that brings us to the end of the day. I would consider today to be very successful. So I wanted to get this cooling system working, and I've done that. So there's now actual coolant in there. So there's green coolant in there. It's been flushed out with water and vinegar, and that's as clean as I'm going to get without the proper tools to actually flush it out with high pressure. So fingers crossed, yeah, that's going to work. I reckon the water pump is going to need to be replaced. Considering how corroded it is on the neck part, I'm going to replace it anyway. I don't know how efficient that fan is, so I'm going to I may get another fan, like an Escort fan, because a few people have reached out and said this is a Cortina 1300 engine. So I don't know if that's a normal Cortina 1300 fan or not, but it's very different to an Escort fan. So we've done the cooling system. We did the fuel system. So I've chucked in a filter because I did the fuel tank and a shiny new fuel cap. So it's now got the fuel tank all hooked up. It's got probably a bit under 20 litres in there. So that'll, I probably won't use the 20 litres. I don't know why I put so much in there, but anyway, I have. So there's fuel in there. It runs through the fuel line and does as it's supposed to. So that's a big step forwards. Now, considering today was so successful and I got everything I wanted done, I did say I was going to share with you what my plans are with this van. So if all goes well, obviously there is a big potential of hitting some big hurdles, but I'm hoping I can get this running and driving and take it to shows like Small Ford Show, which is in, I believe, February. So what are we in now? September. So what is that, like 5 or so months? May or may not make it. But I think it'd be kind of cool, a bit funny to just get this running, driving, on the road, take it to some shows. And from there, I've got a friend who has expressed their interest in it, in this van, because long term I don't want to keep it. I've got no need for it. And they've spoken to me about what they would like. They're talking about how they've wanted a panel van for a while now and what plans they've got for a panel van once they get their hands on one. So they've expressed interest in this once I'm finished with it. So once I'm finished with it, the end goal is to get it on the road, drive around, as rough as it is, take it to some shows and stuff, show it off. People will probably have a laugh or probably tell me I'm an idiot for driving it. But once I'm done with that, I've got no further purpose for it. Strip it down and yeah, my mate wants a shell. So that's going to be long-term end goal for it. So yeah, still got to do the brakes. And that's going to be a big job. I've also going to have to do the floors. So the plan with the floors, because unfortunately I'm very scarce on resources here. I've got no utilities here, so no water, no power, no anything. So I can't get a welder in to actually cut this out and weld it up properly. So just to get it out of here and back home where I can actually get someone to do a proper job, I'm going to tech screw in some sheet metal that'll cover up the floor. Interior wise, as long as the seats and stuff are good enough to sit in, I'll keep them as they are. It's all about just getting this to a show, whether it's just one of these generic weekend shows, car meets or something. I don't care. I want to get it to a show, so to show it off to people, and people will be like, what the hell is this? That's what I want to do with it. Yeah, so still a bit of work to be done, but we'll keep chipping away at it. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see yous all on the next episode of Skid's Garage.